Yeah, let me check it out, see if I can the extensions going. And see what we need to do, what program it's associated with.
Hey Nate, how you guys? Good, how are you?
Yeah.
See ya.
Working? We're live now, so we can hear you.
Crazy, huh? Technology.
Yeah.
This is kind of unusual for first of the year, must have changed.
I'm thinking we're gonna fill in as we get to there.
Pardon me?
Well, yeah, we waited for that meeting with the president, with Chienta.
Yeah, how was that?
He didn't show. Said he had other things to do and he was going to be there at 5 o'clock. So there was, I don't know, nine or 10 of us
Just waiting.
waiting for him. So we just said, well, we had to reschedule it sometime.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to get any definite date on it. Chris Bahi
He's
is
gonna
the,
reschedule it?
yeah. So yesterday I sent him another message. He was looking at possibly this week,
Oh, wow.
but I don't know what.
They saw us on the agenda. And they were like, oh, well, you guys are here, we just have somebody.
Try.
Kyrie told Martin. All the way down.
Yes, that's for
For
the
fuel?
senior center.
Or for the senior center?
Yeah, it's the money that they utilize from the county.
For the senior center.
All rise.
Oh,
Morning, Bruce.
morning.
Gần đây đây có thể Can I borrow your no type and name pen?
This one?
Mine just barely went out. Two more minutes.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'll go grab another pen.
Was in your box.
Yeah. Mine just gave up. Gave up.
Right?
Mhm.
So,
Oh, cool. buy a new vehicle?
Who?
It says
Oh,
Ken
yeah.
Clark. Chevrolet.
So how was your Christmas, Bruce?
Good, really good.
All the kids come home?
Hmm?
All the kids come
They
home?
came home the week before. Yeah, tried to have Christmas at their house. Yeah. It's too hard to have everything down here.
Yeah. Okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our work session, the first hours of the county commissioners meeting. I will call this work session to start, and the first item we have on the agenda is hazardous material. Tammy Gallegos.
Good morning.
Hola.
How are you this morning?
Bueno.
Good. So I have the Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant. This is a grant for about $3,200, and it allows us to do our local emergency planning committee. We meet quarterly and discuss things like the hazardous materials that go through our county. We have presentations on that, so it's a preparedness grant.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that for signature.
Okay.
Any questions on that?
Commissioners, any questions?
I don't think you can sign it yet. I think
Yeah, until the regular
the
meeting,
regular meeting.
No, I think we are at risk to some extent in the county because of the highway that passes through here is pretty much a truck route from deep south to the northwest.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what's traveling on those trucks. They don't have to give us a report or anything.
Yes.
There could be hazardous materials. If one of them had a wreck or something, we need to be prepared to deal with it. So appreciate Tammy being responsible for all hazardous waste in the county. I appreciate her work in obtaining the grant so that we can be prepared in case something does happen, you know, whether it comes up
Yeah.
191, 163, or 491, or going the other way. Sometimes it seems like the truck traffic's increased considerably the past 5 years or more, and I see lots of covered trucks that look interesting to me, but I have no idea what's under the cover, so you never know.
This grant allows us to also work with the State Fire Marshal's Office. And we've done a flow study 2 or 3 years ago, and they've talked about doing a flow study again, which is at the port of entry, and it gives us a snapshot of what is actually going through the county. So
I know at one time we had a report from the port of entry that we had about 1,000 trucks a day going through the port of entry, but I think that's increased. I'd be interested to know
yes.
how many more there are on the road now, because
So
you know, I thought we had
it is.
something comparable to St. George, and then when we check the records, we have about 1,000 a day. St. George has about 10,000
Yes.
trucks a day.
So that
Yeah.
is something we are looking at doing in the future is another flow study. It'll give us a number, but
Yeah.
also what they're carrying.
Yeah, that's good.
So,
You know, this past Sunday at the chapter meeting, there was a group of people that was from RECA, uranium. They were talking about abandoned mines, and in the early '70s, VCA, Mexican Hat, and Monument Valley had all these mines, and nobody thought it was dangerous back then. And of course, you know, the truck route just went right by the Block Elementary School. And as we were young kids, I remember going out there at noontime or in the evening to pick up these yellow cakes, these yellow stones. They're very light, but they're very nice to play with. We go and take them and draw things on a rock. Either that or go home, and in the wintertime when the stove was red hot, we put this against the stove and the whole thing would just be glittering and lighting and everything else. And now most of those students that I went to school with, they're gone. They died off of some health issue. And they were talking about a dad coming home from a mine, exposing the family. And I brought that up and brought it before the superintendent, and they were asking about writing a letter as a county in behalf of the students and also the school. I guess there's another bill that's in Washington that's requesting for additional budget for those that were exposed to such thing. So if you're in that department now, maybe we should get together and talk about it and see if the county can draft a letter in some way with MAC.
I think
Yeah,
I
especially
think
if there's
that
a bill
would,
going through.
yeah. I think that would be under Health and Human Services,
We
probably.
can follow up on it.
Yeah,
and see.
we'll work on getting.
But the subject matter you brought before us is good. Thank you.
Yes.
And continue to do whatever you can.
Yes.
Bruce has alluded to a lot of good issues, and those are the things that we all have in common. Do you have anything, Willie? There be none, I guess.
We recommend that issue be brought before the health, San Juan County Health,
Okay.
for those, I'll probably mention that, what, maybe in
Yeah.
coordination with Mr.
I'll help you out.
Well,
to,
the San Juan County
letter.
Hospital administers the RESET program, which is a program that's funded through the federal government for people that have been exposed to any uranium or downwinders
Downwinders, that's
type
familiar.
thing. And so that program is going on now. If
Yeah.
anybody has any health issues, they can contact the hospital and they'll put them in touch with DC to get compensation
Yeah.
for anything like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Leah?
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Tammy. I guess the next item is yours as well.
It's me for 3 items. You're not done with me yet.
Yeah.
Well, the next item I have is a contract amendment to my aging waiver budget. They are giving us an increase to our budget. Last year during legislation, the legislators gave us an increased in-home funding, and this is just an increase to that part of the budget. So we're going from 114 to 133,000 for that budget.
Wow.
And the aging waiver program allows us to provide services to clients that would normally be placed in the nursing home. We have about, on average for all of our in-home, 80 to 90 clients at a given time.
Okay.
Okay.
Looks like you have that same issues on the regular action item.
Yeah, it's,
And we
it needs
will
a signature.
acknowledge those, yeah.
How many clients did you say?
I run generally about 80 to 90 clients on the program.
Okay. Any other questions? Bruce? Okay. Thank you. I guess the next item, 3.
The next item is a letter of thanks to the Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services. Every year we try to get a bunch of people from across the state to come down, and we take a day trip to Navajo Mountain and like Monument Valley, all of that area, just to show them the distances that my case managers drive to go and see the clients that they see. And this last year we had 29 representatives from like state Medicaid, the Alzheimer's Association. We had several different entities represented. And during their trip, some of the Salt Lake County representatives were so touched by the trip, the people they met, the conditions that they seen, that they went back and organized a drive, and they collected 14 laundry baskets full of like warm winter clothes, canned goods, just necessity items, and they donated them to our clients within the county. So it's just a nice letter to say thank you for what they did for our seniors here in San Juan.
Those elderlies at the retirement homes, like in Blanding, how much involvement do you have with those?
Those I don't. My services don't touch the ones that are in institutional care. The only program that we have that deals with the institutional care is the ombudsman program.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our ombudsman goes in and meets with the clients to see how things are for them in the center.
Okay. Well, get the letter readily available, and we shall do so on the action item.
Okay. That's all I have.
Unless if the commissioners want to make a motion for me to sign it and ratify it during the regular meeting, so Tammy can go and do what she needs to do.
Would that be helpful?
That would be very helpful.
So-
I've got
I'll
quite a
make
bit to
motion.
do today.
We authorize the chairman to sign the letter and move to ratify it in the regular meeting.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded by Commissioner Gray Eyes for the chairman to sign the letter support for the Salt Lake County Aging.
Thank you.
You have the other ones too?
Yes, I have a signature line for the other ones as well, if you would like to sign them and ratify them.
Yes, let's do so.
It's marked on the back side where you need to sign. Thank you very much.
Likewise. Thank you, Commissioners. Don't forget to mention that we're ratifying the documents. Okay, thank you.
You guys have a good day.
Have a
Thank
wonderful
you.
day yourself. All right, BLM project updates. Amber Johnson, item number 4. Madam?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Amber Johnson. I am the acting BLM field manager for hopefully the next year is what we're looking at. The first thing I wanted to do is give you a little bit of staffing updates, because even since I asked to have us be on the commission, we've had some pretty significant changes that have happened this last week. The first one is Gary Torres, who was our field manager, and then was our acting district manager, has been asked to be the Eastern States State Director. It's his first day today. He traveled to Washington yesterday, and he will be there likely for the next 4 months, and then come back into the district manager position, is what our understanding is right now. So there's that. And then also I wanted to introduce our assistant field managers. I think Angela Boa is right here, and she is our assistant field manager for the resources program. So she supervises archaeology, oil and gas, mining, range, wildlife, all that in our office. And then we also have Jake Palma, who I don't believe has been introduced to the commissioners. So Jake came to us this summer, and we're really excited to have him here. He will be doing all things related to the operations of the Bears Ears National Monument. And he came to us from Price, has been with the BLM for quite a long time, and is really well versed in all things planning and NEPA. And we're really excited to have him on our team. I think he's going to add a lot of value. So there's that. In the interim, while they're looking for a detailer to follow behind Gary's detail, Brian Quigley, who used to be in this office in Angela's position actually, is the acting Canyon Country District Manager. And then they've advertised for somebody to be doing that more permanently. Hopefully within the next week or so they'll have somebody announced as the acting long-term Canyon Country District Manager. So can you keep all that straight? It's been a little bit of a whirlwind in our state. And then also I'm sure you're aware that our state director retired, and the associate state director Anita Bilbao is now the acting state director, and our deputies.
That's not permanent, is it?
No, it's while they search for and complete the search for the permanent state director. And also in the meantime, our deputy state director for resources is now the associate state director. So it's been a lot of shuffling. But I think the messaging is really that we have a lot of people in place that know the issues, know the resources, and so even though the faces have changed, the work is going to continue pretty much seamlessly. I mean, it's not like we have a lot of upheaval, even though it appears to be. So any questions about our staffing changes?
How many open positions do you have in this office?
In this office, not very many. So,
Have you replaced Ted McDougall?
Not yet. So we sent in a request to recruit for that yesterday because Ted just retired just a couple of weeks ago. So, we'll expect to advertise for that very soon. Other than the field manager position and a couple of park ranger positions, we're fairly well staffed in our office. So you have somebody in real estate then? We do. His name is Norbert Norton. He's been there almost 2 years, I believe. Okay. Is that correct? So he's starting to get really, he's in that second year where you get good at your job, right? So, excuse me. So, anyway, I think we're in a fairly good
range
pace.
Management positions filled?
They are.
Okay.
And there haven't been any changes in those in several years. So
Good.
we just recently hired our first park ranger for the Indian Creek area. So the Indian Creek area receives the highest amount of visitation for all of BLM in this office, and we haven't had any park rangers in that area ever. I mean, dedicated to that area. So that person will be starting soon. So.
Good.
So I had hoped at this meeting to give you an update that said that our Bears Ears National Monument Plan was signed, and answer any questions you might have seen about that. But it is, as you might say, still at the publishers. So we are still waiting for the final go ahead to sign and release that document. We think we're really close. We had hoped to have it done by now. So we are all waiting and excited for it to come out. And when it does, we will come back and be available for any additional questions or concerns. So there's that, but there's also the plan, was in the draft, and I think everyone's aware that our next steps with the Bears Ears National Monument Plan are to begin a series of implementation level planning. So these are, our overall plan is what we call our 30,000 foot plan. It sets the sidebars, the goals, the direction, sort of the zoning map for the office. And then we, once it is completed, we'll begin working on these implementation plans. That will include travel management planning for the entire monument. It will include a cultural plan that we will work very carefully to determine, which sites will be visited and how they will be visited, and we'll work closely with the tribes and with the MAC and with our cooperating agencies, including the county on that. And then concurrently with that, we'll also be working on a recreation management plan. So we'll take the information from our travel planning and from our cultural planning and determine how we will be managing the nitty-gritty of recreation in this field office. So we're looking forward to a pretty in-depth additional planning process over the next 2 to 3 years. That's our time frame on that, and we will be inviting the county to be a cooperating agency and a large part of that process. So.
Okay.
Then, and the other thing too, hopefully in the next little while, as we ramp up for that, we will be working on MOUs for our cooperators, and we will also be putting together sort of some one-pagers, some info sheets on what those planning processes look like and how we do that, and we'll provide those to you as well, so it's a little more clear and understandable. This week we put out or last week actually, a news release announcing to the public that our business plan that was approved last year is going into place for fees on Cedar Mesa. That includes a portion of the Bears Ears National Monument, and basically hiking to cultural sites within the Shasta unit. Well, and actually it's really only in Butler Wash between the highways that go up to Comb Ridge. So I started in the BLM as the recreation manager, and when I first started, I said, our fee system there, first of all, is very minor, and is second, and doesn't provide the resources we need to do a good job of managing this area. And second of all, is really complex. It took me forever to figure out how to explain it to people. So, excuse me. So one of the things we did in that business plan is just simplify the process altogether. So in 2008, we said we were going to include those Butler Wash sites, and we had never done it. Well, we couldn't do it because we had never written and presented a business plan to the RAC. So we got that done. We simplified the system so that it didn't have these changes from on-season and off-season. We've hired some additional staff, and we'll be providing additional resources during that off-season. The county wrote a letter about a year ago with some qualified support of that plan, and that was one of the questions. Will you provide services during the off-season with changes in? And we said yes, and that is, we're working on that right now and doing that. We also, in that business plan, increased the fees. We looked at what the increase would be related to just inflation, and I calculated it out. It'd probably be about 3 or 3.5, depending on which method you used, dollars instead of $2. But then we looked at our direction through our enabling legislation, and we had 2 ways of doing it. One was for setting fees. One is doing it through complete cost recovery, which I was not comfortable with because that was too high of a dollar amount to expect our visiting public to pay. The other way to look at it is what is a comparable cost. And so that's the direction we went. We used a comparable cost. So our day use fee is now $5 a day for hiking to these sites. And the overnight fee went from either $8 or $15 or, depending on when it was. And now it's just straight $15 a night per person when you do a backpacking trip into Cedar Mesa, no matter what time of year it is. So it's a lot simpler. And then the other thing that I'm pretty excited about that we specifically did to provide an opportunity for everyone who visits Cedar Mesa on a regular basis to purchase an annual pass. We had an annual pass available in previous years, but it was only good during the calendar year. So we had a lot of people that would buy them, say, in March and April, and not buy them the rest of the year. So now that calendar pass is good for 12 months, and so I think it's a better deal. And it's also good for everybody that is in your vehicle. So, you know, a family going out pays one fee for the entire year, and rather than a fee every time. And we looked at what similar costs would be for that pass, and it's about half of what other offices do. So for that type of pass. So any questions about the business plan?
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, raising fees is kind of a hidden way to raise taxes on the public.
Excuse me.
And I guess I'm okay with raising fees if the services offered improve. When Secretary Zinke was here and hiked to House on Fire, he commented that there needed to be better parking. There
Yes.
needed to be restrooms. So I guess I'm wondering, with the increase in fees, is there a plan to address some of the most visited sites with additional parking and possibly restrooms, and especially information kiosks that explain to people what they can and can't do when they visit a site like that?
That is absolutely in the works. In fact, when Secretary Zinke was here and I saw that in the news, I was like, raising my hand, talk to me. Because we've had in our plans for quite a long time, especially at House on Fire. It's our number one most visited day hike.
Yeah.
And what we've had there for years has been insufficient.
Yeah.
We were asked to hold on putting that project out while we worked on the monument management plan. So we've got some draft plans in place. We are poised that as soon as our plan is out for the public, we will be releasing some plans. And I believe probably 2 or 3 years ago, the field office manager at the time presented to the commission at the time some very draft plans, and we took some insights from the county at that time and adjusted what our drafts were, and we'd be happy to do that again. So we will be working on those things very, very soon. Now, for the sites that in the monument management plan we've identified as public use sites, we will be working on those right away, and that will include signage. And I think if you go out to Cedar Mesa right now, you will see that we've already improved a lot of signs, and we have more in the works. The big part of those additional fees goes towards park ranger salaries. So we'll have people out there to educate, to interact, to help the visitors have a better experience and a more worthwhile experience through interpretation and education. So
On the hike that we took with Secretary Zinke to House on Fire, every visitor that was coming or going, he would stop and introduce himself and visit with every one of them, and try to make them feel comfortable being at the site, and hopefully that's what BLM personnel will continue to do when visitors come there, that they won't feel like here's somebody in authority that is looking for me to do something wrong or something, but
yes,
be there more to offer assistance and help and those kind of things. I think is really important for the visiting public.
That's exactly our attitude towards that. In fact, the park ranger that we've hired specifically for the Shawshaw unit, who would be going to House on Fire, is a certified master interpreter, has done many, many trainings on teaching people how to do those sorts of things, and is really great at those types of interactions. And so that's the type of person that we're looking for to hire. That's the type of team we're building, and the approach that we've got is, education and friendly interpretation.
So you say House on Fire is your most visited site. Do you have others that are similar to that you're addressing as well?
So it's a little hard to suss out. We just put I think last spring, trail counters at some of our other sites that we think are really highly visited. We had some technical issues with that, but I think we've got a pretty good handle on which sites are the most heavily visited, and those sites are going to be addressed in our cultural and recreation planning. They're not ones that we've ever made public sites before, but as you are aware, the public knows about those sites. So, and many of our highly visited sites are already within the permit system, and they're, hikes into Cedar Mesa and already are on our public use site, but there are many, many that aren't.
Does the BLM have a system kind of like the Park Service does, where they allow concessionaires to take people to these sites or to do guided tours or things like that?
We have a very active, we call it the Special Recreation Permit System, and we have a very active group of permittees.
Okay.
We have 2 permittees are on the MAC, and we have seen an increase in the applications for guiding in the area, and we've put out some what we call programmatic NEPA over the last couple of years, and we'll have some more, which basically sets the criteria for how we authorize additional guides. The other thing that we have wanted to do is develop a training program for those guides to help them understand the type of messaging that we'd like, because we really see guides and operators as partners in this process and showing people this incredible landscape in a responsible way. So, any other questions about?
Yeah. I would, or since that resource management plan has been put together, how did you involve the Navajo people in terms of cultural concerns, issues? Did you go out to the public meeting places on the reservation to gather concern? Or since the accessibility, and we put a public hearing up here, this side of the county, they have accessibility problem. They don't show up.
So,
Transportation costs, food, things like that, or prohibitive for them to attend these meetings.
So when we did the initial scoping meetings, our closest location to the reservation for the Navajo people was in Bluff. But when we put out our draft, we felt like we needed to do more. And so we had limitations on the number of public meetings we could hold, but we did host a meeting in in Montezuma Creek, and it was fairly well attended. So that was, plus we did some outreach locally for, in the local press, asking for people to provide comment in various ways. At the Montezuma Creek meeting, we had the opportunity for folks to do verbal and oral comment, and we also had booths set up for people to talk to and to listen, and I was at one of those. I was at the recreation and travel booths and talked to many folks from the Navajo Nation that came in.
It seems like that just one location is insufficient to gather a broad understanding input from other communities, Navajo communities. So to me, it's insufficient.
So in the monument plan, we put together a framework for tribal engagement, and that would include doing more work and gathering more information from the Navajo folks, the Navajo people. And then the other thing we're doing as part of our background information or our resource gathering for the recreation and cultural plans is finding ways to do survey work and to reach out to a broader segment of the local tribes. And so we expect and we plan to do a better job of that as we go into the next set of plans.
I would recommend that you make connections, contact with the Navajo tribe, the Hopi tribe, the Ute tribe, the government program
Yes.
that are of the same, working in the same nature as, preservation and protection.
Absolutely.
So
And we have,
you
and we
need
will,
to do that.
and we will
Necessary.
continue. Yes.
Yes.
So-
if it's just one chapter, which I don't know how much of those people are still connected to, but Navajo Man, Ocheto, and other chapters along the way, they still hunt up here, gather. Ocheto has wood gathering, herb gathering, and so forth. They are very connected. So that's the reason why I was saying it was one contact is not sufficient enough to gather a meaningful information gathered.
I agree with you. So we've got a multi-pronged approach, right? We have our official processes that we use for government-to-government consultation, and we work with those elected representatives
Yes,
of the people.
I know there's a system.
Yeah,
It
and
doesn't really work sometimes.
that's why I said
Your
multi-pronged.
comments are made and written, and the outcome is never reflective of those comments. So, the other question I have is the enforcement that you have. Is it a new position, or is it the old, there were two, as I understand, two enforcement officers that were to cover the whole San Juan County?
So for law enforcement, we have two permanent full-time law enforcement officers on staff. One of them was recently vacated. We're in the process of doing the background investigations, et cetera, for his replacement. So we expect that person to be on by the springtime. So once we go into spring visitation season, we should have two full-time law enforcement officers.
There will
We
be
also-
concentrated in
In
those
this field
particular
office.
area, or are they going to cover the general area?
They cover the general area, but this increase in the park ranger staff, which is non-law enforcement, they work closely with law enforcement too. So they can, if they see issues, they bring law enforcement into it. So we have more boots, more eyes, more coordination on the ground with law enforcement. The other thing that we've done is we've added another permanent person to Moab, to law enforcement ranger, and so that person will also be providing assistance as necessary to this office, but it's covering both. And then we've also worked very closely with the county to put together this new MOU and cost-sharing agreement to have the county sheriff assist with patrols and enforcement on BLM. So we really appreciate working closely with you. So we're looking at creative ways.
How is that going to work then, if the sheriff department is understaffed? To me, that's just a dream.
It's a perennial problem for both of us, I believe.
But if there's an emergency, there's the coordination that really needs to take place. And so a lot of that is backup support, things like that. But our
And-
sheriff's office will be digging.
And also
So,
when we have events or
in that
things.
sense, if you're gonna cover the area with law enforcement, what type of resources are you thinking to get some of those additional positions?
I guess I'm not understanding what you're asking. Could you?
Well, you already understand that there's understaff in terms of part service or whatever
Mhm.
that oversees the area, the parks, and the whole Cedar Mesa and so forth. Now, what type of energy are you spending in terms of getting other resources to staff those necessary coverage? The lack of personnel or officers.
So what we've done over the last 3 years is, we've more than doubled our park ranger staff. And we've also added additional law enforcement staff and worked on the cooperative agreement with the county. So we've done that. We've also added some additional specialists to help with the planning processes. And we have really, I feel like, increased the amount of resources going to this area. I mean, when I first came here 3 years ago, it looked very, very different as far as staffing and resources than it does today. So
how many more additional are expected?
So we've hired an additional 8 staff that are specific to monument work. We have added an additional, now I'm on the spot. Can I do the math in my head? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. An additional 6 park rangers, where we used to have 3, 4, 5. So we've more than doubled our park ranger staff. And really, we consider our park ranger staff to be our front line. They're the people that answer visitor questions. They're the eyes on the ground. And they, by increasing that number of people, that is how we increase both our interaction with the public and our ability to have law enforcement be where it needs to be. And management to know what's going on out there. So, did that answer your question, Commissioner? I wanted to be sure I understood it.
I would have to go out in the field to see if they're patrolling it, and I'll understand.
Sure. And we would be happy and honored to host a field trip with the county commission, say this spring when the weather is better and people are out there, so you can see what it is that we're doing and learn about our programs. We hosted a trip a couple of years ago, and at the time the commissioners couldn't make it, but Natalie Randall came, and I would be thrilled to offer that again. Besides the fact you can just go see yourself, but we would love to extend that as an invitation.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Good.
Okay, I have a couple other things, but I know the time I've been, so are we okay on time for me to continue?
Yeah, we've got until 11.
Okay, well,
Let me
Okay.
just ask one other
Sure.
related question. I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding by the MAC as to their role. They weren't very involved in developing the plan, and now it looks like their involvement will be just in the implementation of the plan. Does the MAC recommendations, how much weight do they carry with the BLM?
they carry pretty significant weight. And I think if, speaking to the involvement during the plan, I think part of that was timing. It takes a long time to get the charter set up and the nominations and everything together. And so by the time we had got the MAC stood up, a lot of that work had been done. And
The plan was done, basically.
we had spent quite a bit of time working with our cooperating agencies, and I think some of the same interests were well represented within the within the plan. I think when the plan comes out, you will see the changes that we made based on MAC recommendations.
Yeah, it's not bad,
And as we move forward, I think that is the critical time for good MAC involvement. And I think if you look both nationwide and statewide at the influence and the importance of advisory committees, I think that you will see that the BLM takes those interests very, very carefully.
Okay. Anything else? We appreciate the update. Thank you very much.
Okay.
She's got some more.
I have a few more
Yeah.
things, but
Let
I
me-
don't.
Let me go to one of our,
Just a quick question. Good morning, Commissioners. One of the sites that was most visited around Bluff is the 16-room ruin. And I'm just wondering if there are any plans or discussions between the BLM and the Navajo Nation on rebuilding the Swinging Bridge, or if that's even on your radar.
It's one of those things that we're aware of, but it is not something we have currently in plan.
we tried
We
to
haven't.
get that bridge
Oh.
reestablished.
We haven't had a proposal or anything that would spur any action on that particular project. So,
Okay. Go on.
okay. So we wanted to give you a heads up on a few of the projects that we will be having coming out hopefully this week for public comment and just make you aware. We've been working for several years. In fact, we had a very nice field trip with you last summer for the Goosenecks project, cooperating with the Utah State Parks. So we're hopeful that maybe by the end of this week, we will have an initial public scoping period open, and that won't have a comprehensive plan or anything at this point. It's basically just opening it up to the public with the general proposal that State Parks came to us and saying, what does the public think of it? And we would of course appreciate any comment from the county as well related to that project. We also have a project that's been pending for probably about 3 years. In 2016, we received some applications for permit to drill near Bluff by EOG, and we initiated a 30-day public scoping period for that in November of 2016. So we had 58 comments during that public scoping, and one of the big issues that people were concerned about was potential effects to groundwater for the community of Bluff and nearby. So we put that plan on hold while we did some additional groundwater survey work. We worked with the USGS to do that, and we received the report back, and it is available online. And basically the report said that there should be no effect from these permits. And so we'll be moving forward with the second step. So the first step we did was public scoping. We'll have the analysis out available for the public to review, hopefully by the end of this week, after we did that additional analysis. So I wanted to make you aware of that. And then the EA also has some discussion of the associated rights of way and that. And so as soon as we have that up, we'll send it. And I'm, actually a question for you. Who should, when we have NEPA projects come out for the public, who should we send them to?
Nick?
Nick? Okay, we'll do that. All right. So that is coming up, and I can give you these maps if you'd like. They for the locations of those drilling permits. So, and then and actually, just let me just back up a second and tell you how much we've appreciated having regular coordination meetings with the staff, with Nick and Benny and Nicole, Natalie and folks, and how much value we place on that. So we would like to continue that. In fact, if you wanted to have a more formal opportunity for the commissioners to work with us, we would also be willing to do that. The several counties do that. You know, I know Uintah County has a commission and federal agencies special work meeting, and we would be very excited to have that opportunity on a more regular basis if that's something that you'd be interested in.
Yeah. I'd like to hear a little bit more detail on the bluff.
Sure. So more detail on the groundwater study or the
Yeah.
proposal. So
What precipitated?
it was the concern from the residents of Bluff. So we said, okay, well, we'll do some additional analysis and we'll ask the experts in the field, the USGS, to do that study. So it took a little while to get it done. But sorry.
So what is the concern? And first of all, I guess where does the groundwater come from?
So I think the concern was that the drilling activities would have some sort of a negative effect on the groundwater for the community. And so that was one of the things they looked at. And so
What drilling?
the oil and gas.
Okay.
So, excuse me. So what we found was that the drinking water for those aquifers in Bluff is really good quality right now. We found that they did a study on how long it would take water or contaminant to reach the town of Bluff from the drill sites, and let's see, I should have worn my glasses, but but the calculations basically showed that 12,642 years from the southern well would take for anything to travel, and then from the northern production wells, 5,905 to 17,715 years, and would be basically pumping rate that was proposed. So that they also found that the groundwater in those aquifers generally moves from north to south, so in the direction from the wells to the town, and they're up gradient, but that it is very unlikely that there would be any effect, and that was how the analysis is going at this point. So.
Yeah. The analysis, I understand, is if the oil spill is done up in the northern section and the infiltration is within the underground.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing that's not mentioned is the oil spill is done on the surface and runs down. That I don't think you have the information in terms of those types of contamination. It'd be a lot more faster than what it indicates there.
Yeah. So, I don't have in front of me how long or what any potential spill above ground would take to get to Bluff, but we do know that it's either 5 or 8 miles, depending on the location, so it is quite a ways. And there's the concern that was brought to us was groundwater. So that was the focus of the additional study. So, Angela, did you have anything additional to add to that?
If there's a surface oil spill, there's response teams that they have to notify the BLM within 24 hours. They have to notify the state within 24 hours. And so there's a quick response team to kind of work towards mitigation.
Don't they have a containment area around the drill site?
Yes.
Yes.
Big berm or something that
Yes,
if
there's,
something were to happen, it would contain it within that for a long period of time?
yes, so often you'll see on a pad, you'll see berm they're
Right.
usually lined and that have to hold like a certain percentage and everything.
Right.
So you do see that.
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking in terms of gold mine spill.
Oh.
That was lined, that was contained, but it covered the whole system. So you can't eliminate and say, yeah, it's just within the restricted area, and the infiltration will be very slow, 150 years or over there. Those time limits, if it's surface spilled, runs down, it's not going to go north, it's going to go down, and the infiltration will go down somewhere, and then contamination will be in effect.
So there, as we permit these, there are, like Angela was saying, pretty strong controls in place, and the likelihood of anything like Gold King is relatively low because it's a different type of setup. So Gold King had a lot of water coming in, and then it also drained right into a river, and so that geologic framework is a little bit different in this situation, and generally for oil and gas. But I think the concern that we need to really pay attention to is that any potential environmental issues needs to be considered thoughtfully in advance. We need to make sure that we have protections in place and risk management.
After 150 years, we don't care about people living in Bluff.
I hope
they
not.
They can drink the contaminated water. Is that what we're saying?
No, I think what we're saying is that the likelihood of any contamination ever reaching Bluff is not significant.
There's a possibility.
So I would invite you to read the USGS study, and we'll get that. We'll send you a link to that.
Okay.
And that is how we are basing our analysis, is the recommendation from the agency that does specialize in that type of work. So, any other questions about that? And I think we'll have additional opportunities to work together on this. You'll see it very, very soon. And we wanted to give the county a heads up because we knew it would be of interest.
Good.
We were, let's see, where's my list? We were also asked to give a little update on our oil and gas program in general, where we are as far as leases. So in September of 2019, there were 19 parcels in our area that were proposed for lease, and they have all been put on hold while we do some additional environmental analysis. So there's nothing moving forward on those. In December of 2019, there were 24 parcels statewide, and 9 of them were in our office. And those are in the process of being analyzed right now. And then for March of 2020, so we do these quarterly. So March of 2020, there were no parcels anywhere in Monticello that were nominated by the public for that March oil and gas lease sale. So there's nothing there. And then for the June 2020, we just closed on expressions of interest, and so we don't know yet how many may have been proposed, but fairly minor with the number of parcels going on. And so as we move forward with the analysis, we will be happy to keep everyone in the loop on it. And I think that is about all I had for you, unless you have any additional questions for us.
We probably will as the time progresses.
Mm-hmm.
Can you provide me a copy of the last one?
This is the oil and gas lease sale proposal for this last this last one. So the last set that we're still analyzing. So here's a map that shows where all those parcels are.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I just want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it being here and the ability to answer questions, to provide additional context, and want to express my willingness to continue to improve our working relationship.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Matt, next item of the order.
So, alright, let's see here. So we've got the Grand Water and Sewer Service District Board appointment approval. You'll see going forward with the new year, several of our boards have either vacancies that will be filled or need to be filled, or people who are being reappointed. And this is what this request is for today. For the Grand Water and Sewer Service District, they had opened this up for their Board of Trustees. They considered 4 applications. 3 of them, I believe, were previous members of the board already. They had recommended that we reappoint to the Grand County Water Conservancy District Board of Trustees the following names: Brian Backus, Jerry McNeely, and Preston Paxman. So you have that later on for your approval for this next year.
Okay.
And then, let's see, that's all we have for this item. The next one, you have Spanish Valley updates from Jerry.
Got it? Any questions, comments, commissioners? There be none. We'll go to Jerry. McNeely and Associates, huh?
Yeah, wood. Greetings, Commissioners. It's always a pleasure. It's really a pleasure today because I actually saw some sunshine. Moab has no sunshine. Has not had any for since before Christmas.
Just fog?
So when I popped out of the fog and saw sunshine, that made me have a new look on life. Moab has been a lot colder than you guys, and there is definitely no sunshine. Big layer of fog. And the fog lasted this morning. I didn't get out of the fog till Wilson Arch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like maybe 60-yard visibility.
You're
But then when it
you're
did
getting
pop
to be
out.
a regular whiner now.
I know it. It's winter time. I'm a grump when it comes winter time.
Okay, well, give us an
And when you're
update.
living in the fog in Moab, it gets to you after a while. Not much today, Commissioners. I did have a couple meetings I went to, which one was the Grand Water and Sewer that Matt just talked about. I've been on that board since 2001, I think, which is a long time. And so evidently they still want me there. So that would be the one that that works with our San Juan Water and Sewer really good, because we're actually attached to them now, both with sewer and water. So it's very important. They kind of use me as a go-between. Like if something comes up, they'll ask me how, and then I come back to you guys or to Ben and find out what's going on. So that's how that works, and it actually works really good. It's a lot better than we thought it would. And we had a self-help home meeting, which we're just looking for property, which, as you know, in Moab, property is so expensive. We have a hard time because our grant money will not reach the money areas that we need to. So we try to work with developers, etc., to get already developed lots, and then they get them to give them to us, so we can do a kind of a show and tell for them. So back to the Grand Water. Here's your last little chart, Willie. from Grand Water and Sewer. I know you really enjoy these, but they give them out when I go we have one every 2 weeks. Take a look at that if you want, Mac. You can see that we ended in the high end in December, so that's one of the first we've had compared to if you look at the one that we had to do in the real drought here, it's a lot of difference. So, and this is just kind of a show and tell thing to see how all that works, where we're at with water, and which means what it really means is the reservoir is full, but it's also frozen. So Willie, if you wanted to go fishing right now, you'd have to be an ice fisherman, and you'd have to get you an ice drill. And if you want me to go with you, I refuse, because I do not ice fish. It's too damn cold. So you'll have to find someone
Sun is
else.
out. You said the sun is
I'm
out.
backing out. Not in Moab, it isn't. Okay. Scylla, all my contacts were, during the holidays. So Scylla, they're all doing the same thing they did last time I reported. One thing they did let me know that when they were looking at having a land exchange with the BLM on land parcels underneath the Blue Hill, they've put that on a burner and letting it be second to whatever other projects they got. So they're just looking at it. They're not, when we first started all this, they were really sincere in trying to get the sections that are underneath the Blue Hill that ties into them, and they put that off. The BLM, I really had no changes in what I give to you before, because my contact was on holiday all through that period. So I didn't get to talk to anybody. I did get to talk to her on yesterday, but she just got back from holiday, so she really wasn't up to stuff on a lot of the stuff. She did let me know that they had approved the drill site at Wilson Arch, but also probably nothing is going to happen at Wilson Arch at this time. I also talked during the week. I have a friend, Don Hamilton, who works with the oil companies, and he said in our area, probably right at this particular time, the drilling and oil companies have little interest because of how hard it is to drill, and then with there is a glutton of oil right at this time, so they're really not, like when she was bringing up the Bluff thing, that probably is not going to happen for many years, from what I could gather from him, and he's the one that does the land work for most of your oil companies, and he was pretty positive on the Wilson Arch one, and then we have the two, which the BLM has approved that, but whether it takes place is probably won't. And then we had the two out at Lisbon Valley by the industrial site. There was two APDs out there, but they had not been approved, and he thought that they probably wouldn't even go there for a while. So your oil energy part is kind of taking second stage to whatever they can do.
Would you ask him to do a little research and find out why in the United States, if we have a glut of oil and we're exporting, now we can furnish all the oil that we need in the United States, oil and gas, that we were able to export it, yet anything happens in the Middle East, the price of oil goes up.
Yeah, I asked him that, but he didn't have an answer.
Well, he's not a very good contact, and you need need to start talking to somebody that has the answers.
His answer is getting work in his area, and Vernal is his area, and Vernal is now producing all the oil that we could use in our area right now, according to him.
So why does the price go up anytime something happens overseas?
I have no idea, and neither did he. I guess you'll have to go to the politicians who understand that kind of stuff. And certain ones maybe not. So anyway, I can't answer that for you, Bruce. I'd like to be able to answer to you. All I know is that gas.
I thought maybe Don Hamilton would know.
He was starting to look into other projects. I was really surprised because he's been in the oil business forever. And he was asking about some other stuff that about blew me away.
All
So,
right.
okay. So that brings us down to the BLM. And Brian and Gary were there Monday, but I didn't get to talk to them because they were in this big conference that there was going to be so I got to talk to my one contact just for a little bit because she had to be in that meeting with them. The Forest Service, same thing. They were all on holiday. I got to talk to the receptionist who could give me a little bit of information. Top of Geyser Pass, there's probably about 5 to 6 foot of snow at the top of Geyser, which last time I talked to you guys, it was like 3 feet, 4 feet. And on your Blue Mountains or your Bajos, it's about the same, about 5 feet of snow at the highest top. And they're kind of calling it like it's 200% of normal for this time of year. Just remember this time of year, not at the end of the year. So that's a good thing. I'm getting calls on Geyser Pass. So if you guys, especially you, Mac, get calls on Geyser Pass, on the recreational, it's getting big and heavy, and I'm getting calls like the parking lot's not big enough. The road's too narrow where they plow it, but that's not our concern due to the fact that Grand County has a special contract with the Forest Service to plow that, and so it's up to them. So it's no concern of us during the winter months. There's a date that they have set, but there's a lot of people that go up there. I mean, if you went up there, it'd blow your mind. But also that's where the sunshine was too, so that makes a little more sense. The sewer and water that we're doing in Spanish Valley is going good to fair. We have lots of some little problems. The roads, being as we can now grade the roads, and we did get pavement on one of the main roads. I haven't been getting as many calls on that kind of stuff.
Do you know how many homes have been actually hooked up to sewer and water?
I think we've got about 13 to 15. Is that what you've been hearing?
Yeah.
Back from
It started slow, and then Benny's been out there almost every
Yeah.
day for the past couple of weeks because all of a
So
sudden it
there's
kicked
what,
into
about
gear, and so
250 connections?
Yeah, we got about 200.
And we've
But
made
due to the weather and everything,
13 to 15.
yeah. So that's actually really good. We're having a hard time. What we're really having a hard time on is getting the addresses, and people, when we go to their homes, they're not there because they're working. And everybody has cell phones now, so we're having a hard time contacting the people. So we're trying to work out a system where we can get that done. That's one of our biggest problems that we're working on. I got to see Ben today, and we're going to be working on that the rest of the week and the month.
dropping off flyers and things like that on doors.
Yeah, because a lot of those people who live out in Spanish Valley, they get their mail would get their mail at the post office, so they don't have a post office box or nothing or a place to get it at their house. Some do, some don't. So you got to go all through that, which we found that out when we started the project in the first place, that it was going to be hard to contact these people. And so that's about it for my report. Sorry there wasn't more, but I did attend all my meetings that I was supposed to, my contacts and etc. If you need anything, call me. I'm always available.
No, you aren't. You never answer the phone.
I always answer my phone.
That's really not true. I don't want to get into this or in a public meeting, but you do not answer your phone.
Yes, I do. Sometimes it gets locked in my pocket,
Kenneth, can you get him
you
on the
know,
phone?
and I can't get to
I
it.
give him a call and he doesn't respond.
He doesn't answer, does he?
That's not fair at all.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
He tells
wish-
me that his phone is rigged to where it only rings when it's important. And he said if it's an unnecessary call, the phone just deletes all of those.
If he's
So
taking a nap. it
So I
won't
guess
go.
we're just-
I also have a phone at the house that has a little tape on it that
And you
will
don't-
receive
and you
phone
don't
calls.
answer that when you.
Yeah.
Well, if my wife gets to it fast enough, that will get answered. Thank you, guys. I wish you all
All
a
right.
good 2020. Hope it's all good and better and great. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.
Pleasure working for you guys.
Likewise. Well, folks, I guess we do have enough time to go to the little boys and little girls room. And the law does say that we have to start our commission meeting at 11 o'clock, and I have 10:15. Unless if
If you want to take,
Kendall's here or somebody to do some executive session if it needs to.
okay, I can call Alex, have him come over. So he was wanting to do it. And we did have a request to have an executive session. So I'll call him during the break, and then once he gets over, we can enter into that.
Okay.
Chris, good. How are you, Jake? See ya. Do you know when the actual MAC meeting is? Is it in February?
February 25th, 26th.
I need to write that down right now.
Yeah. So we have to have that published in the Federal Register 30 days before. And so that's in the Washington.
25th, 26th is Tuesday, Wednesday, right?
Well, see you there. Thank you.
Okay.